If you are a student preparing for your GCSE or your A-level exams, then you will understand how pivotal the Easter holidays are. You have got 2 weeks off of school to truly get yourself into a proper revision headspace, because by this time we've got about 40 days until exams, and it is safe to say that you're guaranteed to be quite stressed, which is why you need one of these, a Easter holidays revision schedule, to set you up for success in your exams. And I'm going to be telling you guys how I made mine and a few tips that I have today. Hi guys, it's Riley and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, then hello. I'm a final year 6th form student studying English literature, law and sociology, and I've got 44 days until the start of my A-level exam season. The exams that are going to determine whether or not I can get into the university that I want to go to. And it is safe to say I am very stressed, and I can guarantee that you're also feeling quite stressed. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be walking you guys through how I have made my revision schedule for my Easter holidays. I honestly have a love-hate relationship with timetables. I can definitely see both the positives and the negatives of it. They do feel quite restricting and it can be tough when you fall behind on them, but I genuinely think that during the Easter holidays it is the perfect time to make yourself a revision schedule of some description, because these are 2 weeks away from school and it is honestly the perfect time to get yourself into the studying routine, because there's still a decent enough time between now and the exams and you can still turn your grades around, even though it feels like it's impossible. As long as you are effective with your time, then you can do it, and that is what I am trying to prove here. I am trying to get myself to the position that I want so I can go to university and study the course I've always wanted to study at a university I love. Before you even think about making a revision schedule, you need to plan out the things that you are going to want to put into that schedule. So for me, I made a list on the notes app on my laptop and I just listed off a bunch of key topics that I knew I wanted to cover. I think it's really important to be realistic here. There is no way you're going to be able to cover an entire specification's worth of content times 3 times, what is it, like 10 if you're doing GCSEs. There is no way you're going to be able to cover an entire specification worth of content. Like 2 years of content in 2 weeks is just not feasible at all. You're not going to be effective. You're literally just going to be reading notes, and if you're going to be reading notes, then there's not much point bothering. You have to be making sure that you are focusing on those weak areas. So I know around this time is when a lot of people will have just finished mocks. I know myself, I have just finished in a mock season, and as we've been getting the papers back, I've set up this table of year 13 mock exam feedback, and I've created how many columns? I've created 6 columns. The first column I put the paper in, the second one I put the mark that I got, and I make sure I put out of how many marks, and then I've also put like how many marks I am off of like the next grade, which leads me on to the next column. In the next column I put the grade that I received for that paper, then the target grade that I've created for myself, the feedback, and I've gone down and I've broken it down question by question. So for example, in English paper 1, I've broken the feedback down into Hamlet part A, Hamlet part B, and then my A Doll's House and Rossetti question. And this is because obviously each question will differ, so I can make sure that I'm ticking off all of the feedback that I have. And the way I've got these feedback is from what's been written on my exam papers, but if you don't feel like you've had enough feedback or you haven't sat any mocks, ask your teachers, give them some kind of like work. Be like, I've done this practice paper recently, can you tell me what I can do to improve so that I can get to my target grade? And ask them for the feedback that way. Trust me, they're not going to care. Honestly, they want to help you, so the fact that you're showing that you're willing to improve will gratify them, and it will gratify you as well. So don't be afraid to ask for the feedback. In the last column, I just put next steps, which is basically what I'm going to do to make sure that I am not just taking the feedback and not doing anything with it. It's making sure that I'm taking actionable steps to improve based on the feedback that I've been given. And I've done this for all 8 of my papers. I would highly suggest that you do something similar, because I feel like this is just a really good start point. So for example, if we go to law paper 2, I'm going to be a bit vulnerable here. Question 8, which was a 10 marker, I got 1 out of 10 on because I didn't understand the question. So from that I can see, okay, I need to do some past papers and I need to work on making sure I understand the scenario. Also, I can then see that I need to take what the question has been speaking about. So from that I go to the mark scheme and I'd say, okay, so what is the spec point that I have missed here? And then I can learn that to make sure that if the question comes up again, I am not going to make the same mistake, essentially. In this question, it was occupiers liability 1984, and there was like one singular line in the specification that a whole 10 marker was themed around, and I didn't know that one line, which meant I couldn't understand the question. I now know that I need to make sure that in the exam, I'm taking the time to understand the scenario and really making sure that I am looking out for any key details so that I can get the most marks possible, so that I don't end up getting 1 out of 10 on a 10 marker again. So I'm going to give you guys another example, this time for English paper 1. We're going to be looking at the Hamlet part B question, which for me is like a whole text analysis of a theme that you have to explore. And my feedback for this particular question was that my argument wasn't clear enough. So from here, I know that I now need to write some practice essays, and I need to make sure that I'm making sure that my argument is clear. So after I've done a practice essay, for example, I might highlight as to where I'm referencing that argument and just making sure that it flows throughout the entire essay. Okay, so now you have established the key areas that you want to cover. You're making sure that you're not trying to cram the entire specification into 2 weeks. You're just focusing on your key areas. You can start to begin to make the timetable. So for me, I've gone from Monday the 30th of March, which is today, and I'm going to go through to Sunday the 12th of April, which is the Sunday before we go back to school. And basically, I've created a little time column that goes from 8 a.m. through to 10:30 p.m. So from pretty much the moment I wake to the moment I go to sleep. I have made sure to schedule in like the mandatory stuff. So for example, my morning routine, I know that that's roughly going to take me about an hour to 2 hours. So I've made sure to leave the 2 hours blank so that I can make sure I'm getting myself ready for the day, setting myself up for a good study day. And then I've gone in with an hour of English work, and I've just used the list that I created and I've referenced that to make sure I'm covering a lot of the stuff I want to cover. And then I'm making sure I'm giving myself gaps for rest. So after I've done an hour of English, for example, I'm not doing anything until 1 p.m. I'm making sure that I'm giving myself a big chunk there to rest, work on my hobbies, to make sure that I'm just to give myself that break, because obviously it's important to be quite productive in the Easter holidays, but also it's the Easter holidays, it's a break from school, you're not supposed to be working like 24/7, so give yourself some time to work on some proper hobbies. Don't just waste the whole Easter holidays scrolling, because that's just going to make you feel so bad. So work on your hobbies. This is a hobby for me, making this YouTube video. I'm also planning to do like some gaming later on and stuff like that, because I miss gaming so much and it's just quite like an escape for me and things like that. So I'm trying to make sure I'm doing proper hobbies, so that would be something I would definitely recommend for you as well, to make sure that you're feeling rested. Because one of my key tips that I always give anytime anyone asks for any sort of exam advice, for me it's making sure that I am balancing work and rest. You're not a machine, so you're not going to be able to be working 24/7. You need to make sure you have some time for rest, but I think it's important to make sure that that rest is quite unquote productive as well, because a 1 hour scrolling session is going to be way less productive than, for example, an hour of reading or an hour of playing a video game or doing a workout or something along those lines. I'm just making sure that I'm doing that and that I'm covering enough time for all of my content. So I'm making sure to do the hour of English in the morning, 2 hours if needs be, and then I'm doing 2 hours of law in the afternoon, and then 2 hours of sociology in the evening. So I'm kind of doing a morning, afternoon, and then an evening. So 3 chunks of work, that's 5 hours of work a day. Obviously I will go over if I need to, just to make sure that the tasks get done, but obviously still make sure I give myself that rest as well. Don't ever let the revision take over the rest. I think that that is so important, because you need to be well rested for these exams, obviously, and I think that's also something that the Easter holidays is really useful for, building that habit of your hobbies as well, so that when exam season comes, you don't let revision take over your entire life. You're finding that work-life balance so you can feel truly refreshed. And then you can see that at the bottom I've put half an hour of reading Hamlet every single day, because I want to try to reread as much of the play as I can in these 2 weeks. And that will be a tip if you guys are doing English, if you're doing English at GCSE or you're doing English at A level, you can kind of balance that rest aspect that I was talking about. So for example, reading with being productive. So reread your English text, because that's so important for having an understanding of the plot, especially for questions with extracts and stuff like that. You have to make make sure you understand where you are in the plot, what's happened, what's going to happen. If you do any texts that require reading, schedule in some reading time. And then you can see that I've only planned 1 week. Now I have 2 weeks off, I don't just have the 1 week, but that is because I've taken the first week now, because this is going to be very much like my content revision week. I'm going to try to be revising as much as I can in this first week, and then the second week I'm going to move towards doing past papers. I've printed off a past paper for every single paper in my library of A-levels. I don't quite know why I worded it like that, but you know what I mean. If you're going to be doing any revision in this half term, you have to make sure it is A, effective, and B, that it is active. Active recall is such an important element of revision that I always tell people to make sure they're including. Okay, it is a couple of days later. I apologize, I look kind of different. I'm just editing this video right now. Basically, I got cut off towards the end because my phone ran out of storage and I didn't realize, and I was midway through explaining some stuff. So I'm going to continue on with my little ramble that I was on. Active recall, right? It is a really important element to have in your study routine. It is basically a way of extracting the information that you have in your brain from the knowledge that you need to learn. If we take the example of reading a textbook, you can read a textbook and agree with what it's saying and say, oh yeah, that makes sense, I understand. But if you haven't used active recall, you can't prove that. So for example, turning a textbook page into flashcards and then testing yourself on those flashcards, you can then see whether or not you truly know the content that's on there. So keep active recall in mind when you are choosing the tasks that you're going to do in your little Easter revision schedule. I think it's also important, don't be too strict with yourself. If you don't follow a day to a T, that's perfectly okay. I like to treat mine as more of a to-do list. So if I don't do something on one day, I'll carry it over onto the next day and then just cross it off. Basically, this timetable is like the ideal world. If everything goes to plan, this is how I would cover everything I want to cover. Obviously, you're in the Easter holiday, so you may go out to see your friends, you may go out to see family, there may be events that come up during this time that means you can't study, and that's okay, because again, you're not a robot, you're not a machine. Like, take it easy, be productive, but remember to be realistic as well. I believe in you all so much, and if you have exams coming up, then I am wishing you the best of luck. Put in the hard work and the results will show for it. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you guys want some more study tips, some more vlogs surrounding student life, because that's pretty much all that I do over here. Don't forget to go and follow my revision TikTok. Y'all, I can't make it up, I got cut off again, my mic stopped working. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon with another video. Goodbye for now.